We are in much deeper trouble than anybody on either front bench dares to admit. It's a reality we should all face. And I have to say that, for a Labour Party that couldn't define what a woman was, couldn't define what a working person was, well, after today, I'm pretty convinced they can't define what economic growth is. Thank you.
And that it's going to get worse under Labour. But we also know that Keir Starmer and the others are far to the left of what they promised us. They have no genuine feeling for this country.
Nigel Farage is ready to reveal Keir Starmer's true intentions. What are the real plans behind his brilliant promises? Farage is convinced that they completely contradict what he says. He intends to shock the UK by exposing the whole truth, which many would prefer to keep in the shadows. This event cannot be missed. Be prepared for unexpected revelations.
A couple of exceptions. They are, I think, the most inexperienced people ever to have gone into a British cabinet. If you actually look at their life stories, their backgrounds, and bear in mind, these are people making executive decisions that fundamentally affect people's lives. I think they're going to find it very, very hard. And I say that because the country faces some really fundamental problems. I suspect this government could be in trouble pretty quickly. Or the fact that for every Reform MP there are 800,000 voters, and for every Labour MP there are 30,000 voters, suggests something is very badly, fundamentally wrong. A Labour Party that gets a third of the national vote and 2/3 of a seat. I mean, it's an absolute joke. And I think these results will reinforce in people's minds the need for reform.
When serious problems loom everywhere, inexperience in government turns into dangerous sailing without a compass. It's not just disorientation. It's a threat that can lead to catastrophic mistakes, and that is exactly what we are seeing in our current leader. But what is even more disturbing is that we have already witnessed his failures, which he constantly makes one after another.
When we had a referendum on changing the voting system, it was to a preferential system that, frankly, I'm not sure I understood, let alone most of the voters. We've never had a vote in this country on whether we want proportionality in our system. All the evidence says there is a clear and now growing majority of people who recognise this system doesn't work in the 21st century.
Since then, the situation in the Labour Party has only worsened. Starmer's ratings have fallen to historic lows, fallen even below the most pessimistic forecasts, especially against the background of the Conservative struggle, which, it would seem, should have diverted attention. At the same time, Reform UK is rapidly gaining popularity, capturing the minds and hearts of the public. Polls show that more and more voters are confident that Farage has all the necessary qualities to become a good Prime Minister, unlike any Conservative candidate. With the fall in the number of Labour supporters, the reform is causing growing discontent with the old system, finding a response from those who feel forgotten and ignored. Starmer's inability to inspire confidence only pushes people to look for alternatives, and reform is actively filling this vacuum. It's amazing and even shocking that Starmer was able to reach such a low level in the polls in just 2 months. Its rapid decline only increases the attractiveness of reforms, as more and more voters begin to crave a new option, ready to change the situation for the better.
I got called with the Speaker to ask a question in PMQs. Well, the Prime Minister was not going to answer my direct question in any way at all, and all those Labour MPs screaming and shouting at me, gosh, it felt like being back in the European Parliament. I really rather enjoyed it. But the serious point, of course, and he's right, that with a population that has exploded over the course of the last few years, the previous government did not build enough prison places. But the whole question of early release, I mean, what is the point of a sentence if people are let out after only serving 40% of it? One of the people released from one of the northern prisons yesterday had, wait for it, 109 previous convictions. So that person, I would say, is...
Starmer, it seems, will never put his ambitions above his public image. But here's what really bothers me. His open-mindedness strategy doesn't seem to be working the way he hopes. Just can't figure out why this is happening. It looks like Starmer will have no choice but to resign. Prime Ministers with such terribly low ratings in the history of this country have not lasted longer than 2 years. It would be a real blessing to know that Starmer will not be an exception to this rule for the working people of Britain. I really want this to become a reality.
Yesterday we witnessed some extraordinary celebratory scenes outside Britain's prisons where in some cases serious career criminals were released. And this to make way for, yes, rioters, but equally those who've said unpleasant things on Facebook and elsewhere on social media. Does the Prime Minister understand there is a growing feeling of anger in this country that we are living through two-tier policing and a two-tier justice system?
I'm angry to be put in a position of having to release people who should be in prison because the last government broke the prison system.
It was just incredible. The whole crowd burst into laughter when he talked about the 2 tiers. They couldn't believe that anyone would dare to raise this issue. And what did Starmer do in response? He did not even try to deal with the accusations on 2 levels, but simply switched his attention to shifting the blame, as if it had become a familiar thing for him. But I can't believe that he actually made such a shocking decision by freeing all these criminals.
This week, a suspected rapist was let out of prison by Keir Starmer. I'm not making this up. You'd have seen the news. The first few of 5,500 prisoners who were going to be released between now and the end of October, and he was immediately rearrested on suspicion of rape and sexual assault. And I know that young people who want to go out on Friday and Saturday nights, women perhaps more than men, are really scared about what's going on Britain's streets. And I tell you what, folks, letting people out of prison who are suspected of being rapists is not the right way to go. We need to build more prisons and keep people inside for longer. Tell me, please, give me some comments. What do you think?
Now, they are going to provide housing as a priority, thinking that this will somehow help to avoid repeated insults. But here's what stupid decision leads to. You have to take even more unwise steps to try to fix the situation. How absurd it is.
But I got to tell you, what is dismal about this budget is the growth forecast. If the ambition of our Chancellor is that in 4 years' time, growth should be 1.5%, that is very, very bad news for everybody, and particularly because it takes no account of the rise in population that will happen through legal immigration. It basically means a rise of 0. And nobody's even mentioned today the fact that gross domestic product per capita, wealth per capita, has been falling consistently nearly every single quarter for the last 2 years.
What can you possibly do in this hopeless situation? More and more it seems that illegal immigrants receive more privileges than ordinary citizens. How can you not feel anger and disappointment when people like the Tories have been promising to reduce immigration for many years, and the situation is only getting worse? While those who worked hard and followed the rules find themselves on the sidelines, and now it seems Starmer is not going to take on that responsibility. How can he so easily ignore his own words when he has repeatedly criticized migrants crossing the border by boat? And don't forget about the contract that will allow us to accept migrants for another 8 years. The imbalance is obvious, and it is not surprising that people are full of frustration and rage. How can a system created to protect its citizens end up giving preference to those who don't follow the rules? It seems that the priorities are completely mixed up, and it's just unbearable.
The bigger our population becomes, the poorer we are becoming. And that's a reality we've got to wake up to. But I would say this, the big picture is we're in decline. We're getting poorer. There isn't a £22 billion black hole, that's nonsense. It's 2.7 trillion. Our debt repayments are 90 billion a year. And from all the figures I've seen today, that will be worse in 5 years' time than it is today. We need a complete change of culture. We need to start saying success is a good thing. Making money is a great thing. People becoming rich is something we should encourage. We've got to change our culture of work. The idea that, oh yes, work from home, do a 4-day week, get your work-life balance right. Well, you know what, actually, why don't we say to people, young people, hard work is a good thing. Yeah. Hard work is the only way anybody succeeds individually. And hard work is the only way we're going to have a chance as a country to turn any of this around.
we're in much deeper trouble.
They were in the right place at the right time, when even a child could have defeated the Tories, because people were absolutely fed up with their incompetent leadership and how disastrous things were. It was a perfect storm, when discontent reached an unprecedented level, and voters were ready to give a chance to anyone who did not belong to the old guard. But now that they have come to power, it becomes obvious that they are completely unprepared for this challenge. They are not able to make serious decisions on almost all issues, and this is simply shocking. They can't even formulate the simplest ideas without hesitation, and it's painful to watch them try to put together at least some thought. Looking at how they get confused in their words in real time, it's not just embarrassing, it causes real anxiety for the future.
You describe yourself as working class. Sir Keir, define working class.
No, working class is families that work for their living, earn their money through going out to work every day, not through other
Not
means.
middle classes do that?
Well, working class families have the ordinary hope to get on in life. I mean, this has been the
Don't middle
story.
classes have that
Yeah,
as
of course they do. Of course they do.
So what's
But
the distinction?
People will say to me, "Well, look here. You've come a long way.
Yeah. But you went to state
can't-"
school.
Yeah, but that is the ordinary hope of the working class, which is to have a decent education, to get a decent secure job, to get a car, to get have a nice holiday, to have
But
a
isn't that
house.
the middle class too, Sir Keir? Everything you just listed? No?
It is, yeah, it is, and that's why many people go on their life journey from what you might call working class to.
What was that all about? To be honest, I don't understand why he doesn't adhere to the definition that everyone has used so far. The working class is people who earn less than $50,000 a year. This has been the accepted norm for centuries. It's not that difficult. But instead, he acts like he doesn't have the slightest idea about the topic. It's like someone trying to have a conversation they are completely unprepared for. What else can you expect from a person who doesn't even know the basics of discussing such issues? It is obvious that he has serious gaps in both knowledge and leadership skills. Tell me your opinion in the comments. See you in the next video.